Trials and tribulations for Team Brunel in the middle of the night. It's not all light winds in the doldrums. There are squalls, thunderclouds, unbelievable changes in wind direction that you have to deal with. To help us understand all about what's happening on the race right now, we have got Roscoe Monson. Now, Roscoe, you did leg one with Team Axel. You're the shoreside navigator, performance analyst as well, and you've been remaining pretty plugged into this race.
Yeah, I mean, from the start, we've had a lot of catching up to do with a new boat in the fleet. We've had our trials and tribulations to get here, to say the least. But now I think we're starting to see all the performance coming through from all our hard work.
Okay, well, performance it is, because your team right now performing quite well. Let's go to the tracker and take a look at how the race is unfolding right now. This is leg 4 of the Volvo Ocean Race from Melbourne to Hong Kong, and the good news is we are starting to see the boats emerge from the doldrums and the steady trade winds making more of an effect. The overall leader, Mafrey, bar to bar with Turn the Tide on Plastic as Dongfeng Race Team sits a little way ahead, but it's the top two, Team Axel and Vestas 11th Hour Racing, punching out, and they look set to extend all the way. We know the breeze is going to get better, and we know any advantage, any leverage that you can build up over your rivals heading into that new breeze is going to convert to big miles. Now, I should say, Roscoe is going to be here, and he's going to be sticking with us all the way through the show. If you've got any questions about Team Axel, anything to do with any of the navigation or performance you're seeing out in the water, or just sailing in general, put them in the comments below, and we will put your questions to him at the end. But first of all, Roscoe, I really wanted to get you in today because, I mean, we've seen some amazing performance from Team Axel right now. Obviously, second place, a strong second place at that, just behind Vestas 11th Hour Racing. But it wasn't always that way, was it? I mean, we wind the clock back 2 days, something like that, and what, they were really down the pan. I want to start with you at a moment when Team Axel were down in 5th, and I'd like you to talk us through, blow by blow, how it is they managed to sail through the fleet.
Okay, you'll see from this clip that we've got here, this is the tracker, probably from 48 hours ago, and you can see there was definitely a split here, small split, but we had Vestas and Dongfeng in the east together, and also Team Axel and Mapfrey just in sort of the middle of the pack. Now, one thing we've learned is that when you're on your own, you do not sail the boat as fast as you do when you're racing against someone else. Just the competitiveness. You can also monitor the other competitors much better than you can out on your own. At the minute, the 4 boats on the east of the screen can probably all see each other on AIS. Whereas Turn the Tide in the left-hand side of the picture, they won't be able to see the other boats on AIS, which means they're flying blind. They can't respond to any tactical moves that are happening on the track right now. And as we see this clip play out, what happens is both boats playing together. The boats in the east, you see, get a jump of a cloud, and you see very quickly just how much the clouds affect the boats. Even within 5 miles, all of a sudden the boats in the east get a jump. The boats in the west don't make that, but now at this point you see in the picture, the boats in the west have the breeze. Turn the Tide, you'll see, are the first boat at the bottom of the picture to make the jump to the east. And what we've seen, I think everyone's been talking about it for the last couple of days, there's more pressure in the north than the east. And what happens is Turn the Tide make the jump to go east. Then Axel, as you see, as soon as they come through the cloud, make a conscious effort to get east and start chasing the other boats. And what happens is the Vestas and Dongfeng actually sail out of this cloud that they're in right now, and that allows Team Axel to, with use of fleet management, basically not getting too far left and right of the pack, staying in the middle, giving as many options as they can to sail through, minimizing risk. And you can see also that Mapfrey get left behind. As we play the clip going forward here, you'll see that Mapfrey get left behind, sailing a tighter angle than the boats ahead. Team Axel are able to catch the other boats up, and then obviously in slightly different weather, slightly different cloud, are able to push out in front. And this is, at this point, this is absolutely critical, because the next leg of the race is a drag race, and the boat that's furthest in the north, they will get into the pressure first, they'll extend, and they'll start pushing ahead of the fleet. Unfortunately, Mapfrey, in this case, in the west, just missed this opportunity. They look good, and then you'll see they've made the conscious decision that there's no more gain in the west, and they're now trying to get east into the pressure as well. You'll also see the distance apart, 4.4 nautical miles. round about 6 nautical miles, and it's something that people don't actually realize, is at about 6 to 8 nautical miles, you lose AIS range of the other boats. Outside AIS range, you have no vision of what the other boat's doing other than you're 6 hourly scared. A lot can happen in 6 hours, and that's why these boats are very keen right now to stay together until they get to the drag race.
And right now, I'm guessing, you know, for someone like Team Axel Nobel, very rewarding to be able to dial into the other boats and see that it's all played out so well. And ahead of us, you know, coming up in the short term?
Coming up, honestly, it is absolutely a drag race to Hong Kong. The pressure's going to build, northeasterly breeze, and the boats in front will just slowly extend. Now, saying that, Vestas and Team Axel Nobel have, in the past, not been the fastest 2 boats. Dongfeng and Mapfre certainly have a turn of speed when we go reaching, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens going forward.
Okay, so a very interesting few days for Team Axel Nobel, and in fact the entire fleet as well. I mean, if you were watching the show yesterday, you'll know that we were talking about incredible surge from Sunhunkai Scallywag, from Team Brunel, Turn the Tide on Plastic, but lying in wait and sticking to their guns throughout the entire thing. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Dongfeng Racing, and of course Team Axel Nobel. They played the long game and they played it very well. Earlier on, just before we came on air, we spoke to Mark Towell on board Vestas 11th Hour Racing and got his thoughts on an unbelievable past 24 hours.
It's been an incredible effort by the team, and I think there's also just a bit of luck involved and randomness. At times we felt like we were pulling our hair out watching some of the other boats sail into us, and then we've also had our turn as well. So I guess that's just part of sailing down here in the doldrums and with the clouds and whatnot. But yeah, we're just going to keep pushing and looking forward to getting to the trade winds and some more stable breeze.
The race experts were saying that the boats to the east were going to get the advantage, but at times it looked like the west was going to pay. Were you nervous at any point?
It's interesting. You know, early on we were actually the westernmost boat and made some big gains on the boats in front, and then we saw Turn the Tide, you know, make a massive gain over the last couple of days as well in the west. But you know, eventually I think that the east will pay, so for us, it's actually been all about just getting to the north and getting to the trade winds. So we're doing a course of just east and north right now, and that hopefully is where the breeze is.
Is it job done, or are there more challenges on the way?
I'm not sure we're out of the woods yet, so potentially a few more clouds to deal with, and then once we get into the trade winds, you know, we've still got another 3,000 miles to Hong Kong, so there's plenty of work left, and we're going to keep pushing the whole way.
It's interesting for fans of the race to hear the wind noise on the microphone. We've been waiting for the breeze to finally arrive. A welcome relief for you guys, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're telling me. It's been incredibly hot, and you know it's also just frustrating when you're bobbing around. You know, I think once our best sked, we did an average of 2.6 knots. So you know, just when you're not moving and it's really hot and there's no breeze, it's pretty tough just on the mind. So it's really nice to have. We got 8 knots right now. It's really nice to just have some breeze and be making progress. Like you said, we got Axo, you know, just over a mile behind us. So you know they're very much in it, as is Dongfeng. They're only a few miles back, and yeah, we're just, you know, we've got our masthead zero up and our staysail. We're reaching along here, and just trying to get every ounce of speed out of the boat. It's been really puffy and shifty as well, so lots of transitions with the sail trimming and moving the stack and the keel and whatnot. So just trying to keep it going.
On our show yesterday, we had Charlie Enright as a guest, and he passes on his best wishes for you guys. But also we had a competition running for fans of the show to win some Vestas 11th Hour Racing kit, and it hinged on a key question. So let me ask it to you. When is it that you guys think you will hit the 2,000 nautical miles to the finish? At what time and at what date?
What time and what date? Wow, you're catching me off guard. I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know what day it is. We're just out here trying to get along. We're just over 3,000 miles out. So once you get to the breeze, I don't know, a couple days from now, let me get back to you once I look at the computer.
Mark, that's perfect. We'll leave it in the hands of your race fans. That's probably the best people to ask. Good luck. We'll let you get back to the race.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
So Mark Towell alluded to it there, the competition and the difficult nature of trying to guess when this magic point will hit. A quick reminder how you can enter and what the question is. It's 2,000 miles. When is Vestas 11th Hour Racing going to hit that 2,000 nautical miles to go to the finish? If you have some idea, put it in the comments below on this video. We need the date, we need the time, all in UTC. And you have this video, tomorrow's show, but we will stop taking entries at midnight on Friday in UTC. What's at stake? Well, all this lovely Vestas 11th hour racing swag. We've got T-shirts, we've got tops, we've got sizes for big, small, and of course medium. If you want to have a little bit of a chance, put it in the comments below. And if you want to get ahead of the game, you could ask somebody who's been keeping a very close eye on the race and how it's unfolding. Roscoe Monson here. If you want to ask him a question, put it in the comments. We will be putting your thoughts to him at the end of the show. But before we do that, let's hear from a boat who had a fantastic start to the last 24 hours. Then, unfortunately, things start to unwind. At the top of the show, we showed you that unbelievable knockdown for Team Brunel. Well, we spoke to Bauer-Becking to get his thoughts on the race.
Yeah, the last 24 hours have been, in a way, really good for Team Brunel. We got right back into the leaders that we actually were, besides Mafra, and very close to Dongfeng. Then a big thunderstorm appeared, and Mafra was only 2 miles to leeward of us, and the other guys as well. They kept the breeze, and we just basically stopped. And yeah, within half an hour they disappeared over the horizon, and we were left behind. So that has been really painful.
How quickly do these rain clouds come over and change everything?
Well, the rain clouds just they appear sometimes in like in 5 or 10 minutes. It builds really quickly up. And especially the thunderstorms, it first looks like a small one, and all of a sudden it's getting a massive one. And it's like the one from last night. It's like what we can call more like a supercell. We saw even just before it became dark, we saw some water spouts on the horizon. So it's they're really aggressive. And if you're on the wrong side of it, there's no wind. And if you're just on the right side and the cloud moves you the right direction, then then you're in Fed City, like we say, and you can go really fast. But they changed really quickly, like from going upwind to sailing downwind in a matter of seconds. Like last night, we had the breeze changing, but in a matter of seconds, and the breeze came from the opposite direction, which pushed us all the way down on the side, which was a bit hectic, of course.
Are there many opportunities to overtake coming up?
Not in the first part. It's more on the end of when you go into the top of the Philippines, when there's options coming open, because basically we're coming in the northeast straits, and the breeze will pick up to 15-20 knots, and more or less everybody will sail course. So it's just a matter of sailing fast, but you know then the gains are not there. You can make the big gains if there's some options going to open on the route, then you have to start jibing, because we know just with jibing things can change very quickly. But for the first 4 or 5 days, there's not a lot of options for us. We just have to be patient, and of course there's still a lot of islands where we have to go around as well. The whole Polynesian archipelago we have to go through, and that's a challenge on such as well. Of course, today we were a bit gutted after what happened last night, but we just keep trimming, we keep fighting, and the atmosphere is really good.
All right, Bauer, thank you very much. I'll let you get back to helming and full concentration on the telltales. Good luck.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bauer-Becking on board Team Brunel, trying to get themselves back into that front pack of the race. Now, we've been asking for your questions for Roscoe Monson, the onshore navigator for Team AkzoNobel, and of course the navigator for Leg 1, when you guys did pretty well indeed. So if you're wondering what it is that goes on the racetrack, or how it is that navigators get these boats to perform so well, put your questions in. But just before we come to some of the questions we got here, I want to get your take, because before we went on air, Roscoe came into the studio and we were talking a lot about some of the characters that we're seeing out on the racetrack, some of the navigators out on some of the other teams, and you had some really interesting insight into what goes on in the mind of a navigator. First of all, I just want to unpack the brains trust that we can see on Team AkzoNobel. I mean, you've got some big top hitters there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some big personalities, skippers from previous races. Jules is obviously the navigator who's a race winner before. Simeon, who's been involved in it and been involved with Big America's Cup teams. Certainly the way it works on this boat is you've got the 3 guys and sort of the 2 watches, the main watch guys, who have an open discussion. As they say, they kick the football around with with the ideas and how they're going to do it. Ultimately, Jules analyses everything. and he's watching for what's going on, but he's got to discuss it with the guys to make sure everyone's happy.
Now, my key question here is everyone knows the phrase, backseat drivers. We've all had that thing where we're trying to trim a sail and the bowman's telling us that we haven't got the jib car in the right position, everything else. You're just thinking, look, just concentrate on your job. I just want to play you a clip here. This is Jules Salter on board T-Max and about. Let's just hear what he has to say.
How would you describe the decision-making process on this one? Not very clear, because not everyone knows the whole implications of everything they're talking about. So you often get situations like this where it's a toss-up, you've got to trust one weather model or the other, or you can do the conservative thing and just jive and stay with the fleet.
Okay, so Jules Salter, just give us a little bit of an idea as to what it was that he was alluding to there.
A very prime example, the sailors are on deck doing the best job they can, and obviously they come down, they're wet, they're tired, they need to sleep. They get a snapshot of the weather. It might only be a 2-minute briefing of what's happening with the weather, and automatically they make their own decisions and formulate their own opinions. Now, obviously, Jules has been sitting there for 6 to 8 hours analysing all of that weather to get to his decisions, and sometimes the decisions that everyone makes are not the same. So it's a case of that's why you've got to kick the problem around, work it out as a team. And on each boat, they have a different way of using that brains trust. Some people are very individual. Some people use a committee to make it work. But as we've seen on each boat, it's very different. It's the one key feature that's very different on each boat.
Okay, well, look, before I ask you about another boat, because I'm very keen to get Roscoe's thoughts here on the Navigators as somebody that you've raced against, and, of course, you're observing. I just want to put one quick question from the audience. So we've had a couple of people write in. Franz Lichenauer, I believe, has asked, how many days ahead do you plan your route?
Already before the race starts, we've already done a run of the world, essentially, with everything, all the weather, the historic data we've been through for the last 15 years. Then, normally about 6 weeks before the legs start, we've got 2 weather routers. One weather router does the long-term strategy, the other one does the local strategy, and then we bring that all together. I bring it all together close to race time with the software on board. So it's an ever-evolving process. The weather's always changing, and we're always looking at it. But we really start from probably 3 months, 6 months out before the event, and just keep evolving as time goes on.
Okay, well, because the second part of his question here, Franz wrote, do you look into the whole track when you plan, or is it only the next few days? I guess, ultimately, you've got a plan for both, and you keep updating.
Yeah, keep updating. The historic data is pretty reliable, and then, obviously, we can see the weather reasonably accurate about 10 days out, and then the high-resolution stuff gives us about 3 days. So as we get closer to the time, we're always evolving, running more routes as it happens, just to understand. We also try and match the weather as it is now to what patterns happened in previous history, and then we can hopefully forecast it more accurately going forward.
Okay, well, let's draw our attention to one of the big hitters in the world of navigation, and certainly in the Volvo Ocean Race, Juan Villa, on board Mafre. We've got some images here of some of the way that he sort of communicates with the crew. From what you've seen, what's your take on the setup on this boat? Well,
I think you've seen with Team AkzoNobel, it's quite a committee, whereas with Juan, he's got the experience. He's also a very confident character. He tells the guys what to do, and Zabi is very happy to, very confident in the fact of Juan's ability to listen to him, and so are the team. So they sort of get briefed by Juan. Juan controls it a lot more than the other boats, whereas Team AkzoNobel is maybe 3 or 4 people in a committee deciding what happens.
Okay, and another quick question from the audience then, before I pick your brains about a few more. This will be a nice, easy one for you. I have a guess as to what the answer is going to be. George David asks, who do you think is going to win this leg?
That's a good question. I think Dongfeng or Team AkzoNobel are going to be the 2 boats that are fighting for it this leg. Okay, really? Vestas 11th Hour Racing in the position that they are at the moment, you think they're vulnerable? I think they're strong, but they're looking over their shoulder right now, for sure. Okay, all right. There you go. That was not the answer that I thought it was going to be. Okay, let's talk about another navigator then. Team Brunel, not a boat that's having the best run of things at the moment in this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, but Andrew Cape, the navigator, certainly somebody that packs a punch. Yeah, I mean, a phenomenal amount of experience. And again, on this boat, I think it's Andrew Cape and Bauer that together as a team, they're kind of the brains trust on this boat. They work together, they bounce ideas off each other. They've done numerous races with each other in the past, good and bad. But they're still looking for that elusive win, yeah. Okay, I'll show you. I've got a clip to show you, but before I do, before I press you on this one, this is something that I've been sort of holding in my back pocket to get Roscoe's thoughts on.
I'm going to put this question to you, a little bit of a technical navigation question. So Josh Kent asked, do you use any additional tactical instruments or tools on board Axel Nobel, or I'm guessing indeed any of the Volvo 65s, to supplement AIS? Can you have your own drone other than the OBRs to see other wind boats? Well, first of all, no, the OBRs have the drones and you guys don't have one. But is there any other tools that you do have?
We're basically all the software available. So we use Deckman for Windows, Expedition, and we're using Adrena software all the time. We all use them each piece of software has certain things that they do very well, and that's why we're running everything as a suite all at the same time. So it's a lot going on, it's a lot to keep running. The basic routing is generally done on Expedition. Deckman is much better for looking at the performance analysis, and Adrena does some very good AIS tracking and other boat tracking features.
And at the other end of the scale, I mean, you were saying before we came on air that it's nice to see the hand-bearing compasses coming out as well. We're seeing those quite a few over the last few days.
For sure. Basically, at the slow speeds, the AIS isn't so reliable, and that's why it can take quite a bit of time for the average to update. So that's why you see the guys, the quickest way in this light stuff is the hand-bearing compass. Back to the simple stuff.
Back to the simple stuff. You've got all the technical stuff as well. There's an awful lot of pressure on the navigators, an awful lot of tools as well. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you like. And I want to play this clip here from Dongfeng Race Team and the navigator, Pascal Badigari, of the last few legs. And just watch this moment.
89 miles. 89? In fact, if you engage, we have 52.
Sorry?
To have to Mafre.
Oh, to
Mafre. And like that, 70. We are f***ed.
We're what?
We are f***ed. Completely f***ed.
Well, if you were following the race, I think that was leg 2, and that was the disappointing moment where Dongfeng Race Team were in the lead, timed a jibe a little bit too late, hung on for some breeze that didn't really materialise, and then when they came back into the fleet and got the next report, it was pretty much disaster. I mean, what must be going through the mind of the navigator, not only when you receive that news yourself, but then you have to deliver it to the sailors on board?
I think we saw with the clip with Jules as well, a lot of the weather information that the guys are getting, they're relying on being very accurate, and the models don't always line up with what's happening. So the navigator has 9 other people on board looking at them, wanting them to make a decision, and ultimately they have to make a decision. They make that, and then sometimes it doesn't pan out the way it was supposed to. And generally, as soon as the guys know they've made the decision, they know within a very short space of time that it's right or wrong. Unfortunately, it can often take a lot longer for the navigators to come on deck, and before you see the outcome of that, could be 6, 12 hours, even 2 days before you see the outcome of your decision. But generally, the navigators have a good feeling very quickly as to what's going on. But either they have to live it out, and once you commit to a strategy, you generally have to keep to it. There's no coming back the other way. So there's a lot of pressure on the navigators to get it right, especially now the competition is getting hotter and hotter as we get closer to Hong Kong, as we get further around the world. We've got 4 teams fighting against each other now, which is, I don't think we've ever seen this level of competition in the Volvo Ocean Race before. 4 teams that can take a win, and they all want it from each other really badly. And ultimately, as the boat speeds get higher and higher, and they can't find any more performance from the sailors, it's up to the navigators to make it work.
Well, now this leads us on to another question here that I've been dying to ask you, because as we can see, we're looking at the live updates at the moment, it is very, very, very tight still, even though there is a bit of a front pack forming right now. But you were talking a little bit about equipment and crew, and Derek Lane hit on this. He's asked a question here. As Mafre have not swapped out much crew after the 4 legs, do we expect some crew changes by the time we get to Hong Kong for the overall leader? You have a bit of a thought here as to why it was that we've seen 19 crew changes in Melbourne.
Yes, I mean, when this race, even 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, the technology, the boats were breaking. We saw the shore teams having to do a lot of work to put the boats back together. Nowadays, with this modern one design, they're very strong, they're very versatile. You can push them very hard, but they don't break. It's one feature we've seen, or they certainly don't break to an extent that you have to stop racing.
Yeah.
We obviously saw with Team Axel Nobel in the last race, the mast track, that's one feature, but the other boats all kept racing. It's very rare. Very rare that all the boats drop out the way that they have done in previous races. So what we see now is just pushing forward. Basically, like I say, the navigators are going to have to work harder. Long story short, the crew is what's being pushed.
And the crew's going to break first.
And we've seen that. Lots of damage, lots of breakouts. People get tired, injuries, Brunellovid injuries, T-Max and Nubelovid injuries.
Well, I think it was Rob Greenhouse as well when he pulled out when they were coming out of the Melbourne to start for the next leg. I mean, he was doing an interview and he was saying that by his count, they've had more changes in this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race so far than they did in the entire last edition. So I guess we will see some crew changes by the time we get to Hong Kong. You were saying that Maffrey looks pretty strong, so we'll have to wait and see. We're running out of time, but time for maybe just a few more. Marina Cycles asks, in terms of clouds, how do the navigators know which side of a cloud will have wind and which will be calm? That's a difficult one. Sum it up briefly.
Very shortly. Yeah, no, the cells that come, they're generally either sucking or blowing. And from the weather training, the navigators know which side to hit them, what they can identify which cell they are, where they're traveling, how fast they're traveling. They can track them on radar if they've got rain in them. And it's all these features that each cloud is basically treated as an individual tactical analysis, and then you've got to execute your plan.
Okay, last two questions then, because we are running out of time, I'm afraid. Franz Lichenauer, how often do you have updates and contact with your boat out at sea?
I'm not allowed to contact the boat in any way, but they generally...
I was testing you.
Yeah, generally they contact me every couple of days with either a job list update, something they need going forward, things that are broken, just a general update of what's the plan, and obviously what we've got to come up with a plan with what we're going to do in Hong Kong or the next stop.
Okay, last question then. This is the big burning question, really. Benjamin Portus asks, Roscoe Monson, are you coming to the pub tonight?
I'm not going to make it tonight.
You're not going to make it tonight. All right.
Not in Leamington anyway.
No, that would be a little bit of a stretch. Okay, well, the good news is that Roscoe's going to join us again tomorrow for our daily show tomorrow at 1300 UTC. We've got a quick fix for you in the morning. And I guess the burning question is Vestas 11th Hour Racing going to hold on in the lead? T-Max and Abel, they are just behind them, and Roscoe does not think the Vestas 7th Hour Racing are going to hold out too long. But remember, there is also a competition running. 2,000 nautical miles to the finish. When will Vestas 11th Hour Racing cross that line? If you know, put it into the comments. Have a guess. The date, the time in UTC, and if you're right, you win all this beautiful Vestas 11th Hour Racing Musto sailing equipment and swag. We will see you tomorrow. Roscoe will be here. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will keep you updated in the race. See you then.